Hi, everybody. I am making this recording on Tuesday of week 7, and I decided to do this because in grading your assignments, I'm seeing a couple of themes, and I thought I would take the opportunity to give you some information to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to get the same message. Also because I'm getting a lot of emails with a similar question, and I thought it would be a good time to clarify that. So my first thing I want to address is the resubmissions for your assignments. If you are resubmitting an assignment for me to grade, it would be really helpful if you could please underline or highlight the changes in the document that you've made since the last time you turned it in. It does take me a long time to sort through and to remember what I've already graded and to look for where you've made the changes. If you could highlight or underline that, it would really make it a lot faster in the turnaround of me giving you your feedback. So that's number one. Number two, I want to address something that I've noticed over the years in this assignment. And I think that this term, more so, we want to take a pause and think about methodology. And in the annotated bibliography, you're asked to review articles. And one of the questions is, what methodology was employed in the study? And from the reading and from the discussion board we recently had, you've learned a lot about different methods that have been used and different instrumentation. And there's a little bit of confusion about the difference between the two. So I want to go back to methodology and make sure we're clear about that, and then talk a little more about data collection and instrumentation. And then I just want to clarify a couple more things because we're seeing a lot of different answers, or I'm seeing a wide variety of things in your assignments. And I just want to make sure we're all at the same place because this class is research methods, or mostly qualitative research. And I want to make sure we don't have confusion as we move forward. Okay, so number one, when we're looking at research, we're looking for primary sources. Primary sources come from mainly journal articles that are peer-reviewed. So in your assignments and in your capstone, you're going to need at least 16 sources, and they do need to be within the last 5 years. And you might have a book, maybe you'll have something beyond that, but really you need to have 16 primary sources within the last 5 years. And I said this in my older APA video, but when you think about the last 5 years, right now it's June of 2023. So 2023 is half over. And if you back up 5 years, you might want to take off just knowing that we're getting close to being outdated if you take off the 6 months. So you need a primary source, which is a journal that is peer reviewed. And if you have a book, one is probably okay. And if you've included what you think is a seminal study, you need to be very careful that it is a seminal source. And that would mean that it's something that is truly groundbreaking, that it is something that really changed the way things are thought to be in the particular field or topic area of study that you're looking at. So it would mean the total shift in paradigm, not just like, oh, here's a new theory, but something that has really shifted the whole school of thought. So it would be very rare, I think, that you've included one. And if you did, it's probably not likely that it came in the last 15 years. Really, it's rare that those come up. So when we look at methodology, then, when we're looking at different studies, you should first start by asking yourself the question, what kind of study is this? Is it quantitative or is it qualitative? Now, quantitative refers to how much or how many. And that really has to do with sort of counting or quantifying or determining how much or how many of something there is. And that has to do with the data collection that we're very comfortable with because we all took a lot of math in school. I have a minor in mathematics in my bachelor's degree, and I've taken extensive statistics courses because I was a biology major. And then as I went on in my graduate studies, I took a lot of advanced statistics because I like them, also because I was a math minor. I went to St. Olaf College, which has a very strong math department. And I think if I could do it over again, I'd probably just be a math major. That's my advice for young people now. If they like math, get a degree in math. There are companies that will pay you a lot of money to sit around and solve math problems all day long. And I wish I had done that sometimes. Anyway, I've taken a lot of statistics classes. And so I do a lot of statistics. In fact, people pay me to do the statistics on their graduate work. And I did the statistics for my superintendent when she did her dissertation. And I do it for fun. Just I like statistics. Anyway, that would be a quantitative study. We're not doing quantitative studies in this course. It's beyond the scope of what we do actually in this master's program. You've probably taken a lot of statistics or had statistics in the scope of your studies if you, like me, studied something beyond education. Some of us are elementary teachers, and we had a preparation that was specifically for elementary education. I envy you. You guys have so much, so broadly prepared. I have a science background, and not knowing I was going to become a teacher, I have a lot of science experience. I had to go back and get my education experience. Qualitative research then is what we're doing, and that describes something. So to what degree or how does something? So instead of saying how much or how many, to what degree or what is it like? That's more common in education. And then so you have quantitative, qualitative, or a mix of the two, which we call mixed methods. And mixed methods, if you think about it, is probably the most common and most appropriate application to any question you have. Because in the real world, the best answer to something is probably going to have somewhat of a measure to it and somewhat of a quality to it, right? But for the purposes of research, you can't do everything all the time. So you usually have to narrow the scope of your research and just look at qualitative or just look at quantitative. If you go on to do dissertation work, you'll be pushed to pick one. I'm not good at picking one. I changed my undergraduate major 11 times. Anyway, qualitative research is very common in the social sciences. And that's why here at Concordia, our capstone is an introduction, it's exploration to an introduction of qualitative research. And if you are thinking of doing more graduate studies, you will do more later in a doctoral program, and you'll take statistics courses. We don't require you to do that here, in part because a lot of the preparation of our students does not include statistics or math, and you won't use them beyond here. You can hire people to do it. You can hire me, you can hire other people. I'm just kidding, you don't need to hire me, but you can hire people to do statistics all the time, and it is allowed in advanced graduate studies. You don't have to do your own statistics. You are allowed to hire people to do your statistics. So by the way, if you are thinking of going on in graduate school, but you think, oh, I don't know if I can do the statistics, don't worry about it. You are allowed to hire people to do it, okay? So we have quantitative, qualitative, and a mix of the two, mixed method. So that's the first question you should ask yourself when the question is, what kind of a study is it? Is it quantitative, qualitative, or is it both? Then, if you decide, once you've decided that, you also need to decide what the methodology is. And you would know this from the reading. I just hit my laptop. You would know this from your reading. And also, this is a research class. You can also look it up. So if you were unclear about what methodology was, you would have found out that there are different ways of conducting research. And for example, there is the case study. I shared in another video, I believe it was this week, it might have been last week, that my dissertation was a case study. I did a case study, which means you look at one particular case and you describe it, you use it, that's information. And from a case study, sometimes you can learn things that are more broadly applied to understand a phenomenon. You could also do a survey. Now, by this, I don't mean the survey as in the instrument, something that you complete. A survey would be to to take a look at something and get an idea of what it looks like, sort of as if you're surveying the landscape, a survey of a topic. Okay. There's also an exploratory study, or something we call a longitudinal study. Longitudinal is when you look at something and you look at it over time. Okay. You should also look at ethnography, experimental. A lot of you had a lot of experimental studies that you discussed. There would be a descriptive study. A descriptive study is when you are putting into writing or formalizing something that hasn't been written about before. I had a great opportunity. I'm a fan of Lutheran higher education. I had a great opportunity as an undergraduate to do undergraduate research through the Howard Hughes Memorial Medical Institute. That's a grant that my college, St. Olaf, had. And I spent a summer collecting data in the biology department, well, in a river, in a wetland. For the biology department, in my hip boots and my head net, I collected data about a sedge. The sedge was called Carex stricta. Carex stricta. And nobody had ever published anything about that one particular species of Carex. That's, by the way, it's a sedge. It is a wetland plant. Sedges are very important plants in wetlands because they perform certain functions. And people don't know a lot about them, or they didn't in the 90s. So I spent the summer collecting data about them, and I wrote something about it with the help of my professor, my advisor, and it got published. I got published as a first author simply because nobody had ever written about that particular sedge. So I had done a descriptive study, and then I took it from there. It was a great opportunity that I got because I went to a small college. It was the benefit of being at a small Lutheran college, higher education, Lutheran higher education. You'll want to look up something called grounded theory, which is what we've been discussing this whole term. But I'm not sure that there's been a connection around that because I've had to push some of you to really get this in the assignment. So I would like for you to go back to assignments 3A and 3B. And for each of your studies, I'd like you to think carefully and think, when I think about methodology, was it a case study? Was it a survey? Was it exploratory? Was this a longitudinal study? Was it an ethnography? Was it experimental? Was it descriptive? How are we using grounded theory as research methods to understand phenomena in our field and become better practitioners? Okay. Now, the other piece of this is what we've talked about in week 6, which was data collection and instrumentation. So some of the ways that we collect data include things like participant observation, interviews, the survey that people fill out, different meaning of survey, focus groups, and something I'm pretty fond of the one we use a lot in schools, which is records review. We actually call that archival review, or that's kind of secondary analysis. Records review, those of us who are in special education, we know this a lot because, right, you go through and you review the records of the child. There are all kinds of records in schools that will really surprise you where you can find information. It's not necessarily in a manila folder, in a file cabinet. Records are kept in very strange places. You'll find out. So that's a little bit of an overview that I think we needed to really crystallize. If this video is helpful for you, I'd like for you to go back to 3A and 3B and ask yourself, do I need to reapply my new understanding to these assignments? And then get back to me if you think that you can do better on that assignment, because I want to make sure you have that strong understanding. This is research methods. Because we're going into 605 in the next term, and I'll be your instructor. I want to make sure we have that a solid understanding of that. One more thing I wanted to say about the citations, and I know I opened with this. You do need to have the full number of citations, and they do need to be within the last 5 years. I mentioned this in the video that I shared from 2 years ago, but in reviewing your annotated bibliographies, and I know it's summertime, I need to push you, you need to get thyself back into the library if your sources are not within the last 5 years. I've seen far too many that are from previous to 2018, and it really should be more like 2019. I know it's difficult to find sources, and maybe you're feeling a little stressed you're feeling, oh, I can't, they're there. They're there. And if they're not, then you need to call me and I'll help you. I'll give you some ideas. But it's not okay to go back and to say, well, I'm going to include this one because or maybe it's a seminal work. It's not a seminal work. It probably isn't. Or we need to make sure that they're also primary sources, that they are mostly peer-reviewed journals. A book, maybe two is okay. But beyond that, using other sources, nothing really is as good as a peer-reviewed primary source that is within the last 5 years. And so can you see how if you start to swap in other things, you really take away from the credibility of your research? When you look at that in the field of research, it's not credible research because it doesn't have enough valid, recent primary sources behind it to back it up. How do we know that what you're saying or putting forth is really valid if you don't have enough research? So that was a concern that I'm seeing. I just seen a little too much stretching on this assignment. I know it's summertime and it's been a hard year, 2 years of returning back to school with kids who have been through a pain. I know it's been hard, but let's push it a little bit because we have a standard. The standard is you need to have 16 primary sources, maybe a book or two. Now, once you have your 16 sources, if you have other things on top of it that contribute, that will make your research rich, but it has to be above the 16. And actually, for capstone resources, you get closer to having more like 20 or 22 sources. You are allowed to have more. It was 16, 8, and 8 for the 2 assignments for 3A and 3B. So just know this is the nature of research. And for some of you, I know it's been very frustrating to do all this work and then have me send it back to you and do some more work and to turn it in and have me send it back to you. That is just the nature of research. And it's probably different than your other courses. This is a master's course and not an undergraduate course. So there's that as well. And I know I've heard a little bit of frustration. You're doing a great job. I know some of you have felt like, I'm a good writer. You're doing a great job. This is a different kind of writing. Research writing is different than regular writing, right? You're writing in a new language. You're doing great. You're learning a lot in a short period of time. And it's not just master's level work, it's capstone level work. And it's summertime. You guys are working hard after a really long school year. So hang in there. It's a lot of information. I know you might feel frustrated, but you're doing a good job. And if you do, or you get frustrated, you get stuck, you have a question, please call me. My last point, please read the comments that I'm putting on your work. I'm taking a lot of time to write them out. If they're not clear, please let me know. But I feel like I'm repeating some of them. And if I'm putting into Canvas to please contact me because I can only contact you so many times before, it's your grade, not mine. But I don't want you to panic at the end and not see my comments. So I'm hoping that you're watching the videos. I'm hoping you're seeing the comments. It's a tough course, but you can do it. And let's get you into the best position possible as we go into 605. I'm going to post this video for you. If you have questions, text me or email me. And again, I'm around. I'm generally available in the evenings. Summer vacation, a little more available in the afternoons. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you, everyone.